Hey doll friends! Welcome back to Lady Dynamite Creates. I'm Tiffany, and today we're continuing the Chibi Monster High series with everyone's favorite bubbly vampire fashionista with killer style, Draculaura. Let's jump right in. Once again, I'm using the Dolly Geeks Animate Chibi BJD as my base. Koki needs a few changes, so I jump over into Nomad Sculpt once again to make some edits to the original model. I had planned to record the sculpting process so you could follow along, but my iPad had other ideas and basically just kept taking screenshots instead of recording. If you know why I did that, leave me a comment and let me know how to fix it. But you can still see how she turned out here. I went with an open mouth expression to really show off those fangs, and I paired it with custom eye bases that have heart catchlights and some pointed ears. She ended up looking absolutely adorable. Next, I mixed up the perfect Draculaura skin tone downstairs and got everything ready for printing. A few hours later, the print finally came out, beautifully, no issues at all. Just needed a quick cleanup and its final cure. I also made some changes to the head cap because the original one was pretty thick and caused some top-heavy issues. Here you can see the differences. Here's the new super thin head cap and lots of wiggling and it doesn't fall. I have to do it pretty hard before it falls backwards. Where the other one, I barely could wiggle and it would just pop back. And here you can see the original, the thinner one, and the final thin one. Like, it does have a little bit more give than it did before, but it doesn't need to be, as hard as that. It's just the head cap, so I think it works perfect. I started with the wig before moving on to the face-up so I wouldn't risk any damage. First I added cling film, then a layer of stretchy fabric. After that I go in with glue using my very professional tool, my finger. I trim away the excess, paint the cap, and for this look I decided on a split color wig, pink on one side, black on the other. Then I started layering in wefts. I lightly map out the fringe with a pencil so I stay on track. I used to rely on hot glue for this, but I recently switched to Elmer's Craft Bond Tacky Glue, and honestly, I'm never going back. When I reach the part lines, I switch the direction of the weft so that I can fold them over later and get a clean, natural parting. Once everything is covered, I deal with the raw edges on the sides of the cap since the hair will be in pigtails. I add more wefts to the inside so that everything looks nice and finished. After everything dries, it's time for styling. I take my time with the fringe, cutting just a little bit at a time because once it's gone, it's gone. Definitely some nervous scissor action happening here. I even switched to smaller scissors to get more control. Now I've added in a few extra curled tendrils inside the cap. I didn't want them to get chopped earlier by accident. And a bit of water and a toothbrush helps everything fall into place, and I trim away any strays. Once I'm happy with it, I lock it in with plenty of hairspray. To finish the wig, I added ribbons to the pigtails and a few painted skullette accessories I 3D printed for that extra detail. For the outfit, I start by sketching a few ideas inspired by some of her classic looks. I really wanted poofy sleeves and spiderweb details, but I couldn't decide, so I let my Patreons vote. And design number 5 won, which I was especially happy about since it was one of my personal favorites too. I decided one thing that was really important to this design was going to be a variety of texture in her textiles to really elevate her design. I designed a spiderweb skirt pattern in Inkscape, then cut it with my Cricut using flocked heat transfer vinyl. It really gives this nice raised effect once applied to the fabric. Since the pieces were tiny, I skipped the heat press and just used my hair straightener instead. It works great, I just need to make sure I press everything down evenly. take the skirt pieces and sew them together along the side seams. I can then hem the top, finish the bottom edge, and add a closure. I actually wound up cutting out the bottom edge along the spiderweb scallops, and because the edge has the heat transfer vinyl, it won't fray. The finished skirt turned out so cute, and since it's a pencil skirt design, but this is not a stretch fabric, I left a tiny slit in the back so that she retained some movement in her legs for posing. Next up, I move over to the shirt. I stitch the two halves together along the center front seam, then go in and sew the neckline. To hide that center seam, I add a bit of lace trim right down the front. It's such a simple little trick, but it makes a big difference. I trim down the seam allowance and carefully clip the curves along the neck so everything will lay down nice and smooth once it's turned. Then I use a bit of fabric glue to help it stay in place, folding right along that stitch line so it stays clean and barely visible. Here's the finished neckline, and I always love this part because you can really see just how well that little trick works when you have fiddly seams like this. Next, I start on the poofy sleeves. I'm using black velvet to match the texture of the skirt, and I sew a tiny channel for elastic along the bottom edge and then gather the top edge. Then I pop the sleeves into the armholes of the bodice and fold everything in half, and then I can sew up the side seams. I make sure to gently tighten the elastics in the armholes at this stage, just being careful not to pull it out by accident. At this point, the shirt is pretty much done. It just needs a hem along the bottom and a closure. I've already fitted it and marked exactly where the Velcro will go. Everything is really starting to come together now, and I'm excited to see it finished. I did feel like it was missing a little something though, so I hit the craft store later for a ribbon and a heart charm for a final touch at the neckline. Alright, now I can start on the overdress. I sew along the marked lines at the top of the bodice and along the center front and bottom edge of the skirt. I'm working with 2 layers of fabric here so I can get that clean high-low peplum shape. Now that it's stitched, I've already folded under the inside hem of the bodice and added a few little decorative beads to the points of the skirt for extra detail. Then I attach the skirt to the bodice, but I'll leave the lining layer of the bodice free for now. That's so I can go back and hand stitch it down over the skirt later, which hides all the seam allowance and keeps everything looking really neat and finished. A huge thank you to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for being there and supporting this journey with me. It honestly means the world, and I'm so grateful for every one of you who helps make these projects possible and keeps me creating. Angel Bookwalter, Awkward Bird, Katie Lee, Cozy Cat, Deborah Sweeney, Jay Zer, Stephanie L, Wednesday, Dancing Johari, Port Charlatan, Abrielle Thomas, Bex Mini Studio, Ellen Daria, Kitsy, The Oak Magpie, Tara Ann. And here it is, all stitched in place. It took a bit of time, but it really makes everything look so much cleaner and polished. Now all that's left is to add the Velcro closure and sew up the back seam. Of course, I wasn't paying attention and managed to sew the Velcro on wrong and forgot to leave the tab. So I had to carefully unpick it and redo it. Luckily, it wasn't a full restart situation, just an annoying fix. But here is the finished overdress complete with working Velcro. It turned out to be so cute, and the back seam lines up perfect now and everything has a clean finished look. It's accessory time, so I jumped back into 3D modeling mode and designed some shoes. I pulled inspiration from both G1 and G3 styles to come up with these little cuties. Of course, the color choice was obvious, pink and black all the way, so I painted them to match. And here are the final shoes. I'm honestly so happy with how they turned out. They really pop against her lighter pink skin tone and tie everything together perfectly. Alright, it's finally time for her face up, but before I conceal anything, I start by painting her mouth and teeth first. I wasn't super confident I'd be able to fully seal inside the mouth since the teeth were in the way, so I use acrylic paint for this step instead. That way, if I get a little paint outside the lines, I can easily clean it up with a bit of acetone without messing up the sealant layers and wasting Mr. Super Clear. Once that's all dry, I go in with 3 light layers of MSC so that I've got a nice base ready for pastels and pencils. I have to say, this face-up has been the most fun I've worked on with this whole series so far. I feel like I'm finally starting to get the hang of some of these anime BJD techniques, and I can really see the results improving with each BJD repaint. This time I experimented a bit with a gradient in the lash and eyeliner area, which felt very on brand for Draculaura with all those soft pinks and purple tones. I also made her eye line slightly larger than the actual eye opening. In my past BJD repaints, I've usually stuck pretty close to the eye hole shape, so this was a small change, but a big one for me. It's a technique I've seen on a lot of other anime style repaints, and I've been wanting to try it for myself. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who took the time to comment and encourage my daughter after the last video. She read everything, and it genuinely meant so much to her. She actually decided to go for it and officially started her YouTube channel, which I'll link below. Seeing her feel that encouraged and excited has really been special, so thank you so much for being part of that little push. I finished off the face up with plenty of shimmery mica powder because honestly, every vampire girl needs a little sparkle. And with that, the face up is done. I absolutely love how she turned out, but she's still missing one thing: eyes. I 3D model and printed these custom bases for Draculaura, complete with heart catch lights, and got started painting them. I know G1 leans more grayish purple and G3 goes pink, so I decided to split the difference and land somewhere in the middle with a pinkish purple. I built up deeper purples at the top that fade into pink and then add some soft pale pink highlights to the bottom. I finished them off with a touch of mica powder, then domed the tops with UV resin. I go in with a lighter to pop any bubbles before curing and seal everything with a glossy UV top coat. Now it's time to pop them in and see the final look, and that's a wrap. Chibi Draculaura is officially complete. I'm in love with the mix of vintage-inspired silhouettes and the playful vampire fashion style Draculaura is known for. This project has been such a joy to work on, and I'm really loving how this series is coming together. I'm so excited for the next doll in the series, and let's just say we're diving into something ocean-inspired for Mermaid, and I can't wait to start bringing her to life. Draculaura isn't available anymore since one of my Patreon subscribers grabbed her up early. But I do have a few other pieces and a bunch of new shoe designs over on my Etsy shop if you want to take a look. Thank you so much for hanging out and creating with me today. Every comment, like, and share genuinely means a lot to me. It really helps keeping me inspired and excited to keep making and sharing these projects with you all. Until next time, remember, always be creating.